I wanted to ask you about ISIS in Afghanistan for a couple reasons. What the hell happened to them? Because they were a force that were fighting the Taliban. And I guess to bring up here the safe haven myth too, which I'm seeing a lot of hot spin up now in reaction saying that, oh, look, the jihadists are going to come back to Afghanistan. But Scott, it was less than a year ago, and you always point this out, that the special forces were acting, and I think kind of, tongue in cheek, calling themselves the Taliban Air Force.
Yep, and I linked to it in today's piece at antiwar.com too, that Washington Post story. The Joint Special Operations Command flying drones in support of the Taliban against ISIS, which is the answer to your first question. The Taliban killed them all, or almost all of them. I mean, I guess, probably didn't kill every one of them. And there have been attacks, including the attack on the Hazara schoolgirls that took place, 6 weeks ago or 2 months ago, where the Taliban said, we didn't do that, man. That was those guys that did that. So, I guess they're not all the way gone yet. But, and frankly, I don't know who they are. They're probably just mostly old disaffected factions of the Taliban, guys that got kicked out of it, and said, okay, well, we're going to join up with this group of Pakistani Taliban exiles here. And there may be some Chechens and whatever. But, I got to tell you, man. So I'm always talking about this guy. It's Bill Roggio and Thomas Jocelyn at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. I'll always follow them. They're very detail-oriented for hawks and focused on the terror war stuff. And I think Roggio's the kind of guy who you would see him quoted as the expert on this. He's the one who's telling you, and that's how you know it's true. But then on his Twitter feed there, he says, listen, we know that al-Qaeda is still in the country because it says so in these UN reports. And I'm like, what? That's really all you got? Like, I thought he was going to say something. The first half of that sentence, I was like, all right, finally someone's going to demonstrate to me that there's some friends of Osama and Ayman al-Zawahiri running around in Afghanistan somewhere. Show me some Arabs. And that's what you got? Is the UN reports? But I've read the UN reports. And the UN reports say, member states inform us. Intelligence agencies say that, and then that is it. There's no evidence whatsoever. The only Arab I've heard of having anything to do with any of this was they said an Egyptian al-Qaeda PR guy was killed back a few months ago. But then, okay, where's his cell? Where's the follow-up? And who counts? And if you read closely in the stories about al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, almost always they skip right to Lashkar-e-Taiba, and then as they try to call it, and who knows if anybody on their side ever called this at all. But the Americans call it Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent. Oh, really, huh? In other words, fighters for Kashmir in the dispute between Pakistan and India are supposedly in Afghanistan. And I'm supposed to consider that, what, a threat to American civil aviation? Give me a break, dude. These people, I'll tell you what, Kyle, back in 2009, when Stanley McChrystal wrote his report about why we have to do the surge, Lindsey Graham had to remind him, hey, you should say in there that there's al-Qaeda guys in Afghanistan that we're fighting. And McChrystal went, oh, whoops. Man, I forgot to put that in there. That's the reason. Oh, I mean, of course we're fighting al-Qaeda. Yeah, al-Qaeda. They're the guys we're fighting. After all, everybody knows that. After Lindsey Graham told him, geez, your report would read a lot better if you pretended that there were some suicide hijacker, friends of Osama running around there somewhere. And then the same thing for Bruce Rydell, the former CIA officer, who's been great on Yemen. Thanks for that, Bruce. But, he supported the surge and wrote his big report in the spring of '09. And in order to claim that there were al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, he had to conflate them with Lashkar-e-Taiba fighting in Kashmir and say, well, the Afghan Taliban have relations with them. Oh, I guess Roggio was also saying that, it says in the UN report that the Haqqanis are still friends with al-Qaeda. And that's what makes the Taliban friends with al-Qaeda, because the Haqqanis are, and now the Haqqanis are back friends with the Taliban again. Okay, well, that's a narrative that you can fit in a couple sentences, but it's not demonstrated whatsoever that that's true. It's also not demonstrated that the Taliban would be stupid enough now to let a bunch of foreign Arab international terrorists use their country that they just finished successfully taking back over again as a base to attack Western targets and get all of their army divisions carpet bombed off of the face of the earth again. So, remains to be seen whether they can keep a deal any better than the Americans can. But
Right.
they made a deal that they would not allow that to happen. And the fact that Bill Broglio can only cite the UN reports, I was disappointed. I've been really looking forward to some al-Qaeda and Afghanistan propaganda of any substance here to grapple with lately, but that's all, unfortunately.
Well, you would think they would be able to like photograph some guy who was in the, moved there as the Mujahideen, married some Afghan women, and retired from the fight and